Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Transatlantic GH-1631-26D. This is their extra heavy-duty vinyl-covered chain door stop. It's a door chain, is what it is. I have one here, and I've got part of the vinyl cover stripped back so we can see the spring assembly. There's a spring assembly on both ends, and that's part and parcel of it being considered heavy duty. The fact that it is got some not insignificant chain links on the inside of the assembly also, of course, adds to that. And I'm going to try to peel back the vinyl a bit to show that to you. Now, what Transatlantic says is that these are adjustable from 20 to 30.5 inch. And we'll give you the dimensional properties now, or shortly. That's what that chain link looks like. So it's not insignificant, that's for sure. Speaking about the adjustability, in the screw pack you're going to get a coupling link where you can modify the chain as you require. You can also crimp using this chain link, grab another link, and hook it or connect it over to here to pinch off the connection so that it's physically shorter. One thing that I've also done is perhaps a more elegant approach is I've disassembled this spring, meaning this portion here, you can push that in far enough and crimp or pull over the tangs enough to shoot it down into the center of the spring. And no, it's not easy, but it's doable. Let's get that checked out. Okay. Get that pinched in after you push it in. And this is, of course, not what really is recommended. And at this point, I can work that all the way out or down. And yes, it'll be difficult because those tangs are constantly snapping on the coils, but you'll be able to extract that out. You can then do the same with the other side, allowing you to actually change the length of the chain, perhaps even cut it, and then reassemble the unit. And I'm just simply putting it back together at this point. So you can fish these two opposite tangs out of the coil, disassemble the spring. If you want to avoid doing all that, simply get this peeled back as best as you can, and it's just working it all the way down, and with enough time you'll be able to get it all the way down. Grab a link of the chain, come over to the end here, and then use this coupling link to adjust it to the size that you need. Now, the stock length is, which I'm going to give to you now, is adequate for, like a 3'6" door, maybe a 4-foot door even. And generally the size that you're going to need for a 3-foot door is in the range of about 25 inch, something closer in that range. Okay, we've got the vinyl. Sorry, this is like watching paint dry, I realize that. Okay, we've got the vinyl slid back over appropriately. The length of this as it stands now is, an overall length is about 33 inch. Okay, that's going to handle doors up to 4 foot. Now, let's back up. A heavy-duty chain stop or chain guard for a door is a good piece of hardware, there's no doubt. You'll absolutely want to have one installed in a condition where you have an exterior door that swings out and there is the possibility of wind or some other circumstance that may allow the door to swing well past where you want it to swing, causing potential damage to the door, to the wall, to the frame, to the hinge, to the door itself, to people, last but not least. And a chain guard is one of those pieces of hardware that are used to limit in a scenario where when all else fails, the kind of situation. Now, chain guards or chain door stops are not really the most elegant solution for doing this. There are other pieces of hardware that are more appropriate, and those are called overhead stops. Generally surface mounted, also often concealed mount as well, where you have a metal door and a metal frame that have been properly reinforced and prepped for this slide track piece of hardware that will perform the function of a dead stop on the door. If you've ever walked, when you walk into a sports stadium, those exterior doors that you go through, they always have exit devices, they have door closers, and they have overhead concealed door stops. To get that door, because you've got a bank of, say, 12 doors, each of those doors will go to 90 degree or 95 degree or 100 degree, and they'll stop, dead stop. And that's obviously to keep the doors from crashing into each other. And in this regard, whether it's an overhead stop or a chain guard or a door chain, or it's an arm on a door closer that can act as a dead stop, the chain guard is often a reasonably effective and economical potential solution. Now, I say reasonable and potential because the Achilles heel with the chain guard is the fact that they're giving you sheet metal screws. Okay, that's going to pull out the first time that you have an actual situation, a problem. And it will damage the face of the door. As the screws are ripped out, it will reverse dimple the sheet of steel. So I would really suggest that you sex bolt them through the door. Through bolt them, sex bolt them, use binder posts, some method of connecting it literally through the door. Drilling and tapping obviously is superior to sheet metal screws, but if you don't have reinforcement behind the door itself, not much that drilling and tapping would actually do for you. Now the header, because its physical properties are being pulled on differently in shear like this, you're going to see the door portion pull out before you see the header portion pull out. And this is of course attached to the header. This piece is of course attached to the face of the door. And I can give you a guideline now as to where I would really recommend that you install the material at. Let's take a look. Pulling up some prior work that I've done with these chain guards. You're going to have, depending on the door size and the length of, depending on the length of the chain, okay, and which is related to the door size. If you're dealing with, doors that are 2'6", 2'8", you're going to want to shorten this down significantly to about 20 inch. If you've got 3'6", 4 foot doors, you'll want to be more so in the range of its full length. And if you've got 3 foot doors, you're going to cut it down by about 25 inch. So you're either going to leave it for the real wide doors, you're going to take off 5 inch for the standard doors, and you're going to take off 10 inches for the narrow doors in general. You are going to be about, depending on that door width as well, from the header portion, you're going to be about 14 inch plus or minus 4 inch, depending on if it's narrow or if it's wider. If it's wider, you're going to push it out a little bit. On the door as well, you're going to emulate similar dimensions. Here's what you will start with doing. I would suggest that you're going to get this placed onto the header. Part of the reason you're going to need to detail the dimensions is, Transatlantic doesn't offer any published data. Number two is start at about, perhaps at about 15 inch. First of all, what's the width of the door? Is it 3 foot? Like I said earlier, modify the chain length. Is it less than that, 2'6", 2'8", modify the chain length. If it's 3'6", 4'0", probably leave it alone. Start with about maybe 14 inch from the hinge jamb to the header. Go over about 14 inch. Then get your door open and then go over about 14 inch, and you'll have an angle. Does the length of the chain work with that positioning? If the door is wider, you're going to have to modify based on the length of the chain. The crucial part about the length of the chain is you don't want too much of this hanging down in the opening, because you're going to have part of it on the header and part of it on the face of the door. So, you know, if this chain is 33-inch overall, half of that's going to be 16.5-inch. And if you've got a 7-foot door, someone's going to hit their head on this chain. So it needs to be, well, it won't be installed like this, it'll be more like this, but it's still going to hang down. So you've got to position the chain and the length of the chain such that no one hits their head. It stops the door at the proper degree of opening, does not interfere with a door closer. So those are my guidelines, and you know, modify those variables as it suits your application. That's just the bottom line. This is the 26D version. They also make a DU version, which will give you dark bronze pads. You know, match a dark bronze finish on the hardware, things of that nature. It's a good quality chain. I don't, and I'll tell you this, these plates are, you know, I'm tempted to say that they're solid brass, even though the finish is lousy in terms of it being satin chrome, but, you know, lousy is an unfair word, really. Where are you using this? It's not magnetic, and I don't believe that it's zinc, and the spangle sort of look on the back of this tells me that this might be solid brass. Regardless, the rest of the chain is steel. Okay, everything else in here is steel. So the key is through bolting it through the door. That's the key. And then having it function in such an installation that it suits you completely. Now, looking at the rest of the extended description, again, adjustable. They consider it heavy duty. I would agree with that. I can't think of one that would be considered heavier duty than this. 2 compression spring assemblies, vinyl cover. Indeed, I just got to it now. Cast brass mounting and plates. Cast brass mounting. It should be cast brass mounting plates. And then there's a link below this video to the product brochure, which will allow you to review a variety of general hardware from Transatlantic. Now, the name Transatlantic is actually, here in Chicago, some people will also call it TACO, Transatlantic Company. And that's a name that's synonymous with a certain clique of distributors and a certain client base of those distributors that have come to rely on the product line. I'll tell you, it's exceptional. My family has been purchasing Transatlantic for decades. They have been historically an excellent source of hinges, door closers, exit devices, and lock sets. And if you are an installer a subcontractor, let's say, that supplies and installs hollow metal doors, wood doors in, you know, retail tenant build-out spaces, you might want to seriously consider Transatlantic, at least on one project. Their exit device, that ED501, that is, you are going to just realize that this is the device you want to use. It's incredibly economical. It's rated grade 1. And the only time I've had one fail in 25 years is because a customer welded it to the door, and when you throw 1800 degree Fahrenheit onto it, the spring that keeps the Pullman latch popping back out was literally destroyed in the process of him putting all that heat onto the door. That was the only time there was a failure, and that is not the device. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all the Transatlantic products that we sell, a link to the manufacturer's website, along with a link to the full product catalog. If you have any questions on the Transatlantic GH-1631-26D chain guard, heavy duty with a vinyl cover, or any other Transatlantic product, please feel free to reach out to us.